Alright, so I've been talking a lot recently about Chinese apps getting banned and TikTok in general, and it appears now that, well, this might actually be the biggest story to you guys out of all of this information, considering that the vast majority of my audience is here in the United States. So like I said, TikTok, it got banned in India, Australia, and the United Kingdom, and the United States are all talking about banning Chinese companies like Huawei from even being involved in their 5G technology rollouts, but as of right now, it appears that the United States might be banning TikTok in the very near future. Now, this is not a joke, this is not a conspiracy or anything, this is actual news, and there is actually people in government talking about them looking into TikTok and possibly getting rid of the app in the United States. But before we go ahead and get into the story, I do want to remind you that if you do enjoy the video, to please make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, and let me know what you think about all this down below. If you want to be updated every time that I upload a new video or have something to say, you can follow me over on Twitter at @SubTheOptimus. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. So the United States is looking at banning Chinese social media apps, including TikTok, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Monday. Pompeo suggested the possible move during an interview with Fox News' Laura Ingraham, adding that, quote, "We are taking this very seriously." Pompeo was asked by Ingraham whether the United States should be considering a ban on Chinese social media apps, quote, especially TikTok. With respect to Chinese apps on people's cell phones, I can assure you that the United States will get this one right too, Laura, he said, quote, "I don't want to get out in front of the president, Donald Trump, but it is something we are looking at." Washington's top diplomat added that people should only download the app, quote, "if you want your private information in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party." So if you don't understand what's going on, basically TikTok in recent days has kind of been exposed as being basically spyware on your phone. TikTok is ran by a Chinese-based company called ByteDance, and if you didn't know, in China, the CCP, which is the ruling government in China, they pretty much require that all businesses that even want to really do anything in China, they have to basically tie in with the government in some way, whether it's giving up trade secrets or possibly in this instance, even going as far as giving backdoor access to the Chinese government. So, obviously TikTok has exploded over the last year and a half or so, and here in the United States, it's quickly become one of the most popular apps on the App Store. It's one of the most popular social medias in the world. But that honestly might be coming all to a big halt because obviously the United States and China, there's like some rough tensions between the two. There's constantly trade wars and bickering and positioning and things like that between the two countries. But obviously, the United States does not want the Chinese government having backdoor access onto American citizens' phones. They don't want them even in the 5G technology process as we begin to roll that out either. Now, TikTok being one of the biggest social medias and possibly being able to pull a bunch of data for the Chinese government, it really could end up being dangerous because, the Chinese government could hypothetically just be spying on American citizens. Now let's go ahead and get something clear here. Obviously, the United States government, they spy as well. They spy globally, but they also spy on their own people. So when it really comes down to it, I feel like a lot of it personally is actually just posturing between the two countries because if you think about it, the United States, they're probably with the mentality that like if anyone's going to spy on our citizens, it's going to be us. So, a possible ban is on the way for TikTok and maybe even other Chinese social medias and applications for your phone. Now also said was, quote, "TikTok is led by an American CEO with hundreds of employees and key leaders across safety, security, product, and public policy here in the United States," a TikTok spokesperson said in a statement following Pompeo's comments. "We have no higher priority than promoting a safe and secure app experience for our users. We have never provided user data to the Chinese government, nor would we do so if asked." Now obviously this statement can't really be trusted because number one, the statement comes from TikTok themselves. It's basically like the police doing something and going into court and saying, "Hey, we did nothing wrong," or, a criminal on trial for murder showing up to the courtroom and just saying, "Hey, I would never do anything like that." It's kind of like the expected answer. It's what people would think that they would say. I wouldn't really ever see TikTok come out and be like, "Oh yeah, we're handing your info to the Chinese at every turn that we can." It's pretty awesome. Now the truth is that TikTok has Americanized in a lot of ways because there has been a lot of fear, I guess, over time that apps like TikTok would be banned in the US. Even as far back as like a year ago, TikTok was being investigated by the United States government and being basically banned off of military and government officials' phones because they weren't sure if the app was pulling information on them. They weren't sure if the application was collecting data about people in very important and high-ranking positions in our government. So it's not like this is anything new, and TikTok has kind of responded to a lot of that, a lot of the fear, I guess, by, the American CEO. That's a big point that they make all the time. They love to make the point that they have servers for US-only content and things like that stored away from China and whatnot. It really is just a bunch of generic statements that I would expect from TikTok, but I feel like it's more likely than not that they are being accessed by the Chinese government, whether willingly or not. Now, Pompeo's remarks came during a time of heightened tensions between the United States and China, which have spilled over into several arenas, including national security, trade, and technology. TikTok, which is owned by Beijing-based startup ByteDance, has been repeatedly criticized by US politicians who accused the short-form video app of being a threat to national security because of its ties to China. They allege that the company could be compelled to, quote, support and cooperate with intelligence work controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. TikTok has said previously that it operates separately from ByteDance. It says that its data centers are located entirely outside of China and that none of its data is subject to Chinese law. US user data is stored in the United States with a backup in Singapore, according to TikTok. A spokesperson for the company told CNN Business in May that it thinks the national security concerns are, quote, unfounded. In all reality, right, the possibility is definitely there that they are cooperating with the Chinese government, and honestly, I think the government here in the United States sees that as a risk that just shouldn't be taken regardless, and when it comes down to it, I think the likelihood of a TikTok ban, whether permanent or temporary, is pretty likely at this point. Of course, it's just my personal take on it, but at the end of the day, we really don't know if TikTok is lying about this or not, because if you think about it, like, TikTok could be just saying, oh yeah, the United States people don't have to worry, all of your data is stored in the United States, none of our data is subject to Chinese law, but, it could be all getting rerouted to some server in China at the headquarters, and basically be under scrutiny by the Chinese government and whatnot. That is totally possible, and in reality, it's definitely likely. I would just say, I'm not an expert or anything, but I would think that is probably likely, considering the fact that, once again, the Chinese government, they don't really play fair. They don't play ball with companies in their country unless they kind of are in cahoots with the Chinese government. There's no real chance for most companies to flourish in China if they aren't, tied to the CCP in some way. And for a company like this, which is actually gathering data on the people using the app, data that the business has no real reason to be collecting, data that in all reality most people would be scared and disgusted by if they found out about, and data that has nothing to do with the application whatsoever, it is possible that information is being collected and then is being sorted right back into the Chinese government for whatever reason they choose. Now, I don't know if TikTok operates separately from ByteDance, that is the startup that kind of brought TikTok onto the entire scene or whatever here, but I wouldn't fully trust them when they say that, oh, your user data is stored in the United States with a backup in Singapore. I wouldn't totally trust that, and once again, it's a spokesperson for the company. It's not like we're talking about some group of independent researchers or anything like that. Of course they're going to try and spread some sort of propaganda about the company to make it look as good as possible. Hey guys, there's no fear, get on TikTok, there's no problem. Of course that's what they're going to want to do, because that's what makes the money and that's what keeps people using their application. But at the end of the day, if I were you, I would stop using TikTok. I personally don't have it on my phone, and I think that it is kind of a dangerous situation to be putting American data at, so the app has exploded in popularity in the United States and other Western countries, becoming the first Chinese social media platform to gain significant traction with users outside of its home country. It was downloaded 315 million times in the first 3 months of this year, more quarterly downloads than any other app in history, according to the analytics company Sensor Tower. The company has also run into roadblocks elsewhere. Last week, the Indian government said that it would ban TikTok and other well-known Chinese applications because they pose a, quote, threat to sovereignty and integrity. Tensions between India and China have been escalating after a clash along the Himalayan border. So like I said, it's not like the United States is the only country on planet Earth that's kind of considering a ban like this. It's actually considering taking action against them. India basically already did it with dozens of Chinese apps. It wasn't just TikTok. It wasn't like they were just like, oh, we're sick and tired of seeing these mashups on YouTube, let's get rid of TikTok. No, they banned a lot of Chinese apps because of these fears. And like I said, when it comes to 5G technology, which will soon become the mainstay in mobile devices and telecommunications and whatnot, Chinese mega company Huawei was actually kind of slated to be huge and important to that work. In the United Kingdom, they were set at a 35% market cap in order to start working on the technology for 5G and start implementing it across their country. Australia has been talking about making these kinds of bans. I think they also banned them from their 5G technology, and the United States has banned Huawei altogether. So it's not like America's the first place on earth to be like, oh, we need to ban the Chinese from doing these things, because in reality, the West is all, I think, kind of turning together to say, oh, hey, we don't really like the fact that the Chinese have all of this possibility to get into our data. And even though India isn't part of the West, they kind of are following suit with these decisions, if not just being a straight out leader in these moves. And I don't know if it really has to do, especially with the Himalayan border situation. I think they also just realize how dangerous that it can be too. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if TikTok ended up banned in a lot more places because, the United States, it is really culturally influential. And a lot of the things that our government do, it gets kind of reciprocated in other places. I wouldn't be surprised if next year TikTok was banned in India, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Europe. I truly couldn't be surprised because, these are all countries that they talk to each other a lot. They're part of alliances together and whatnot. They're all on friendly terms. A lot of their security agencies and spy centers kind of work together if you're thinking of like the Big Five or whatever. But TikTok is honestly in some trouble when it comes down to it because, just with the United States and India alone, that's almost 2 billion people that have now been removed from access to the application, which is almost like 25% of the population on the planet when you consider that. So that's a pretty big market share that TikTok could have actually had that is now completely gone, and TikTok can't really do anything about it if that ends up following suit in other places like in Europe and, the UK. The UK, I think, would probably be the next country to pull that off, but TikTok would definitely take a very severe hit, and in reality, a lot of Chinese social medias and tech companies would take a hit. Huawei has already taken a pretty significant punch just from being banned from 5G technology, and in reality, this might actually flare up issues with China for these countries that do make these bans, but I think at the end of the day, the countries that are considering these, like the United States and whatnot, I think they see the trade-off as being pretty beneficial at the end of the day because they're probably thinking like, well, would we rather them have access to our data or would we rather them be kind of angry at us for a few weeks? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it might flare up tensions. Yeah, it might end up being a problem, for a couple weeks when it comes down to the relations between the countries, but in all reality, I wouldn't even be mad if the United States made the ban against TikTok. I think that it is for the better because, personally speaking, I think it's very creepy, the fact that the Chinese might be pulling American information and using that and analyzing it in some way for whatever reason, honestly. It is definitely something creepy to think about. I don't think anyone really wants that to happen. So with that being said though, thank you guys for watching the video. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below. Thank you to my channel members, your support helps my channel tremendously. And until my next video guys, this is Optimus, well, not using TikTok, and signing out.